Well, it is a good thing that I was able to get out of bed this morning then. So good morning to everybody. Thank you for, waking up this early to hear me do my spiel. Um, since I am Jake of all trades, as you can see in the background here, it kind of highlights a couple of the things that I do. QR code takes you right to the website. So if you're right on the screen there, go for it. There are so many things going on that I just want to focus on one or two of them today. One that I haven't particularly talked about much in this group. So I'm actually licensed through LegalShield. I don't know if a show of hands if anyone has heard of LegalShield before. All right. So what it is in a nutshell, it's kind of how health insurance sometimes you have it where you have a group of providers and doctors that are all on the same network. You pay a monthly thing and you now have access to all of these doctors and all of these hospitals, and you're inside the network, right? So it's a very similar concept to that. You pay one monthly fee, and then you have access to an entire basically army of lawyers to consult with on any sort of issue legally, right? So, as a show of hands, who has ever Googled something that they probably should have asked a lawyer about because they didn't want to have to pay a couple $100 an hour to ask a question? Can I get a show of hands? Even something small, business related or personal or business. Oftentimes, if we've gotten in a situation where we get a ticket from an officer, if there's supposed to be points on that, how do we fight that so that we can reduce, what the effect of that is, things of that nature. Now, as far as the subscription itself, right? It of course has its limitations because you're only paying $24.95 a month. Obviously, it can't do everything, but it does do a lot, right? So, have you ever had a contract or a lease that you weren't quite sure if you wanted to sign it yet? You weren't sure about all the fine print inside of it. You were like, well, this seems okay, but I'd really feel more comfortable if somebody with a legal background had reviewed it. They will review any legal document up to 15 pages included automatically in your subscription. So if you do get a new apartment and you want them to go over the lease, make sure that there's nothing hiding out that's crazy. If you are starting a new job and they give you, a contract to sign for that, and you want to double check that, everything, all your ducks are in a row. Those are things that people don't often think about to have reviewed because the cost of an attorney is always expensive, right? Even if it's someone who just got out of law school and they're trying to just get started and have a smaller fee, they're still like $250 for an hour, right? So in the grand scheme of things, if you want to have access to that, but not always be paying an arm and a leg, this is kind of the foot in the door to be able to consult with folks about your issue and find out what the next steps are, right? Knowledge is everything, right? When you're in a situation where you haven't been before, especially a legal one, it can be very stressful to not know who to contact, where to start, what your rights are, and having a lawyer in your corner is crucial to have with that. Now, the bigger part too is most times when you see subscriptions, it covers you, and then if you want to cover either a spouse or kids, you have to add on another plan or pay a separate one per person and all that kind of stuff. With Legal Shield, it's not like that. That $24.95 that covers you and your entire family. So even right there, it seems like a no-brainer to have that as an option. Reason being, a friend of mine actually had a story that she had Legal Shield, and her kids were about 14 or so. He was in school with a couple of his friends. They got questioned by the principal, right? So they said, hey, you guys got to come down to the office. They were questioning them about things, asking them about drug related usage, things like that. The two boys who were not part of the Legal Shield plan, they were, a whole mess. They were nervous. They were in the office, talking to the principal. But the child who was part of Legal Shield, they actually give you a card and it says, hey, I would not like to speak unless I have my lawyer present, right? So this student was able to pull out this card. He was taught this by his family and the Legal Shield team. He was able to take this out. The principal just let him go back to class, right? There was no questioning. There was no nothing because they knew that he was within his rights to not say anything. And whether or not there was anything going on, he knew there was a possibility of self-incriminating, just because you're in a situation where you're nervous, you don't know, what's going on. So this kid was actually able to get out of that sticky situation just by knowing that his rights were to not have to speak, right? Um, in situations where you're getting pulled over, right? A lot of people in certain communities, it is a very stressful time to be pulled over, especially in certain areas, certain demographics. It can be very stressful. With Legal Shield, there's an app for it, right? So we basically just say tap the app. So if you're in a situation where you're getting pulled over, you can actually tap the app, get a lawyer on the line for you, and as soon as the cop actually comes to your window, you say, "Hey, I have my lawyer on the line. They just would like to speak with you first." The cop actually does speak with the lawyer instead of you, where we can actually work to get a lower or reduced situation rather than, hey, they've already written a ticket, now you have to go fight it in court first. Fix the situation after the fact. This actually allows them to kind of get ahead of it. And now the cop kind of is a little bit limited in what he's able to do because he knows that your lawyer is right there on the phone. It adds a little bit more security that you have somebody there with you. God forbid something crazy happens, they're on the line. It kind of reduces the risk of something going awry in that situation, which even the peace of mind of knowing that can be worth the subscription itself. But then there's the straight up benefits of things that people need to do that they don't. So for instance, wills and testaments, living wills, medical directives. Raise your hand if you have your will done. There's a lot of people not raising their hands right now, right? So the reason a lot of times is because we don't want to think about that. People don't want to think about, their death. They don't want to think about, who I have to leave stuff to. They think they're young and healthy. Oh, I've got time. I can wait to do that till I'm 60, 70, 75. Not a problem. Problem being, a lot of times life gets in the way and we don't know what's going to happen to us, right? So making sure those things are in place is really important, especially if you're estranged from family members, and that's kind of the only people who the state would give your belongings to. The state doesn't know that you're estranged from those folks. They don't know that you're now, your adopted family or your friends are now your main family. So if you don't have something that's going to tell them who you want to get your belongings or who you want what to go to, they will just make it up for you. And the next of kin or whomever they think it is going to be that person. And that might not be who you want to receive that when all is said and done. Things that are not when you're dead. So medical directive, do you have a DNR? So do you want to be resuscitated if something happens? If you become a vegetable, who do you want to be taking care of you? Things like that we don't often think about, that they cost, usually hundreds of dollars just to get them, put in place. That's included as part of the subscription as well. So even outside of, having that in your corner, if something comes up out of nowhere, people often get the subscription just so that they can set up their final documents, their wills and everything like that, so that they can at least have their paperwork in order. And they actually review that and update that for free every single year. So you don't have to worry about, I did it once, but now I'm going to have to pay to if I want to update it at all. That's actually included in there as well. So there's a lot of benefits to having it. And their turnaround time is pretty incredible considering the amount of people that are members. So you can have something that's turned around in 3 business days. They're, reviewing a contract for you. So you don't have to be waiting, weeks upon weeks. If you go to a lawyer who's, super busy, they might put you to the bottom of the pile if they're just reviewing a document for you because they know it's not as big a payday. The thing about Legal Shield is the way that they set it up is they pay their lawyers on a retainer. So essentially they're getting about $100 million a year just to be part of the Legal Shield team, right? So they're just basically on a retainer. And when you call in, they help set you up with whichever lawyer is going to be right for your situation. Say, hey, I need, to talk about this situation and see what my options are. They'll find somebody who's going to fit that perfectly. And if it's a situation that's a little bit more complicated and it's not within, the regular subscription, they also have their team of lawyers that you now just get a discount when you're able to use their services. So instead of paying full price, you pay 75% of their cost right off the bat. So even just if you need to get a very specific lawyer, something like immigration, divorce.
1 minute left, Jake.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Just 1 minute.
Appreciate they have that whole suite of people there to help you with whatever needs you have, right? So of course there's a lot more that goes into that, and there's also business versions of the Legal Shield plan as well. So a lot of times we can get into sticky situations running your own business. Hiring a lawyer and having them on retainer is not feasible as far as budgeting is concerned. So that is another great option to have in your back pocket, so you can consult, especially when you're hiring folks, having an HR situation, things like that. It's good to have somebody in your corner. And so that I do not go over my time, definitely check out the website. There's a lot more going on than you could ever imagine. The events calendar, and I do a lot of things. So if you have any questions about any of that, please don't hesitate to reach out. I am your resource. So without anything else, I hope you enjoy the rest of the day.